everyone, and welcome to Shuffle Online's post-movie Q&A with Last Christmas director Paul Feig. I'm so excited for you to see this full interview. He is so much fun to talk to and such a wonderful person in general. But before we get into it, make sure you're keeping up with the Shuffle shenanigans on both Twitter and Instagram. And now, without further ado, grab yourself a hot cocoa and settle in for our full conversation with Last Christmas director Paul Feig.
So great to be with you, and I appreciate you. As I told you before we started, this is not my house. I do not live in a weird factory like this. I'm currently in North Carolina shooting a new TV series that we just got picked up. So this is a rental that I'm in. So I live in an abattoir, apparently. It's very strange, but it's a nice place.
Well, we have tons of stuff planned. You have a fun themed drink to share with us, which is perfect. And then we've got fun questions to kind of dive into. I'm just excited to learn all about your great movie.
Excellent. I'm excited to tell you about it. I'm so happy you like it. It's it was a year ago it came out, and I loved it. I mean, we got really crazy reviews. Some people just really went after us, but what has been nice is just it's really been finding an audience quite a bit, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things I've done, and so I'm very thrilled to talk about it, and thank you for caring.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's kind of kick it off. Just kind of walk us through how it all started. You know, what attracted you to the script? What kind of brought you into it? What was those first steps like?
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back a little bit because Emma Thompson and I were supposed to do the movie Late Night together. And I was a fan, but I had never met her. And so when I came on board that, she was like, oh, come on out to London. I'd love to talk and, go through the character and stuff. So we went, and she said, bring hiking boots. I was like, okay, that sounds weird. And so we got together and we took this 4-hour walk through Hampstead Heath around where she lives, and ended up in a pub for lunch and just had the greatest time. We became almost like best friends from this one meeting. Yeah. And then so when the scheduling didn't work out to be able to do Late Night, we were both kind of like, oh, we want to work together on something. And so we just kind of always said, let's figure something out. So then, a year and a half later, after I'd done the movie Simple Favor, I was trying to figure out what my next movie was. Thank you so much. And I got this email out of the blue from her saying like, hey, I wrote this script, I'm only sending it to you. I think if you want to do it, we'd have a lot of fun and drink a lot of gin. I was like, that sounds fun. But I didn't, you get sent scripts all the time. And so I was kind of like, oh, I hope I like it. And I opened it up and said Last Christmas, which I'd already done a Christmas movie back in 2006 called Unaccompanied Minors. So I was like, I'm never doing another Christmas movie again. But I read this script and just fell in love with it. And I found it so, I love the characters. I love the character of Kate. I thought she was just such a, interesting character. And I felt like something for Amelia that could work, which we can talk about later. But, by the time I got to the ending, I was just like in tears and so affected by it, and called my wife out and said, like, read this right away. And she comes out 2 hours later in tears too. And she's like, you have to do this movie. And that was it. And I just jumped on board, and we got it set up at Universal, who wanted to make it. And the rest is history, as they say.
I love it. So how did Amelia kind of fall into place? And same with Henry. Were they always kind of first choices for these roles, or?
Well, yeah, because I had a meeting with Amelia 4 or 5 years ago now. When she's in the middle of Game of Thrones, and she had just come off of doing a play on Broadway that she got a lot of great notices for. And she was in town, and when you're a director, a lot of times they'll call it, hey, do you want to take a general meeting with somebody? Which means you just, sit with them in an office and talk to them. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And I kind of expected her to be very serious like she is on the show on Game of Thrones. And she comes in and she's this effervescent, hilarious person. And I, after an hour talking to her, I remember just going like, I have to get her into a comedy. I want the world to see her be funny. Yeah. So when this came around, we set it up. And then what happens with studios is a lot of times they'll give you a list of stars that they've been wanting to work with, or who they would say would trigger a green light for the movie. Yeah. And so there's 10 people on there, and one was Amelia, and it was just like, oh, this is it. This is the movie I can do with Amelia. And so for me, it just wiped any other idea I had out of my mind. And we sent the script to Amelia, and she loved it, and I had a lunch with her to go through it, and she was in. So it was really exciting, and it was like one of the most kind of not that you normally have to kind of battle to get actors into movies, but this was just like the studio was like, yes. So it was exciting. And then for Henry, Henry and I had done a Simple Favor together, and we just became such good friends on that movie. He's the most delightful guy you've ever met. I always felt bad. He had to play kind of this, kind of this guy caught between these two other characters in Simple Favor, and had a lot to do. But he's such a funny guy that I wanted to be able to show him being that side of his personality also. But when I wanted to cast him, Crazy Rich Asians hadn't come out yet. So, so they had heard of him, but they didn't know, and he wasn't a movie star at that point. So we were kind of biding. Yeah, we were just kind of biding our time with, maybe this person will work. But I was always plotting in my head, like, I want to get Henry in this movie. And so waited, and then suddenly that opening weekend, it just went through the roof. And I was like, hey, remember that Henry guy? Yes. And so he got in. So I got everybody I wanted.
Oh, that's so awesome. And with Amelia, it's so interesting because I remember earlier in 2019, her New Yorker piece came out about the aneurysms that she had. So I think while watching Last Christmas, I kept wondering, it seems like such a personal role for her. Like she's able to really connect with that character. And I think for me, it just felt like such a great performance because of that. Like she just channeled that thing that happened to her that was so massive,
But it was a complete kismet kind of thing. If one can call having an aneurysm kismet, but the idea that when she read the script, like I didn't know anything about this. She hadn't gone public with any of that at all. So when I met with her, she was just like, I really relate to this script. I really, and she told me about what she had gone through, and it's like, wow, that just affected me, and it also made me just feel like this is like meant to be. So then when we were doing all this, she wrote that piece, and it was just so great. No, it was actually after, I think it was actually after the movie came out, but knowing that she went through that, it just made it just a deeper experience for all of us.
Yeah, it's just really powerful. But I'm so curious to know, do you have any like scenes in the movies that were some of your favorites to film, or in the end that you love to watch, or both? You could do both. What are some?
Exactly. It's so hard to pick your favorite baby.
Yeah, right. There you go.
I mean, honestly, shooting in London was always a dream of mine. I've been looking for years to figure out how to just shoot a movie in London, not even like where I could show off London. And so when I read it, just like, this is the one. Also, I can just do my love letter to London. So every time there's certain locations that were really hard to get, like on Regent Street, when they're waiting for the bus after their first date. That is the main drag of London. But they decorate it with all those lights. I'm just like, I want to show off decorated Christmas time London. So first of all, we had to rush to get into production. So we had 3 weeks before Christmas happened so we could capture all those lights. But then even shooting out there, we couldn't bring in lights. We couldn't bring in much equipment because it's just such a main drag. We had to shoot in the middle of the night, so it was freezing cold. Poor Amelia and her little, skirt with her little tights. It does not work against a whistling, subthermal wind. So, so I just get very happy when I watch that. But I loved doing the ice skating. That just was really fun. It's very fun to watch us doing that because I was on skates, my DP was on skates, the camera people were on skates, and I'm like, I'm not a good skater, but I'm skating behind the camera trying to keep up because they're going around them. But it just was so romantic, and just to be able to use that George Michael song, Praying for Time, which when I first read the script, I was like, this song has to be here. And everybody kind of thought, oh, you're going to put like a romantic song. It's like, no, it's got to be this. That song got so weighted with other meaning. And I like that there's kind of a dark element to it that, once you know what happens in the movie, to go like, oh gosh, this was really, they were definitely praying for time, both of them. So, yeah, but I don't know. It's funny. I kind of never, when I make a movie, I tend to, I watch it a million times before the premiere with audiences, and my favorite thing. And the minute I watch it at the premiere, my brain turns off and I go like, now I'm never going to watch this movie again. So I've avoided it, but it was just the other night, just because it's been a year, and I was like, maybe I'll just check in on it. And I had so much fun watching it again. And it just brought up such warm memories of, everybody. I mean, that cast, nicest group of people you've ever worked with. I mean, just from top to bottom, everybody was so nice, and Emma, the legend, and being on set with her every day. It was just wonderful.
Well, even Michelle, she's great. And she was great in Crazy Rich Asians too. So it was just one of those things where it's like both her and Henry just are amazing to watch.
No, it's crazy because, again, Michelle's somebody I've been wanting to work with for 20 plus years because I'm a huge Hong Kong movie fan. And so I saw every movie she's ever made. But in my mind, she didn't exist. She was like this mythical creature, and when we were doing Simple Favor, we were in Toronto and Henry had already done Crazy Rich, but Michelle was there shooting Star Trek. And so he called me up one night. He goes like, "Hey, you want to have dinner with Michelle Yeoh?" And I was like, "What?" and I was terrified because I was like, is she the person that you see on screen? Is this cool character who can also completely kick your ass in real life? And so, but I met her and she was so warm and funny. The minute I met her, she was just making jokes, and it's just like, oh, so I have to get, so, I didn't even compute for me that they had just done Crazy Rich together. Like it would be a reunion on screen, but, she just brought it. And just, again, to get a chance to have Michelle Yeoh do comedy, which she doesn't ever do on screen, was chef's kiss.
So to kind of segue from when you were talking before about the ice skating scene and the music, how did you guys go about choosing the songs for the movie? Because there's so many, and I love how it opens with that choir singing Heal the Pain. I mean, what a way to set the tone kind of for the movie, right? So I was just curious how you chose everything,
Yeah, it was very organic because, the original script that Emma sent me had references to George, definitely. And George had actually been aware of the project before he passed and wanted to do the music for it. But there was only kind of placeholders for a couple of songs in there, other than the fact that it was called Last Christmas based on the song. But we, because of doing the movie, I started to do a deeper dive into all his music. And I was a fan, but like a casual fan of the hits. And so I wasn't aware of the deep tracks, which aren't really deep tracks unless you're a George, not as familiar as George as I was, as I was not. So it was once I started going through all that I went like, wait, this has to be the soundtrack for the movie. We really have to do this. And that opening scene came from, it wasn't in the original script, but we all decided we wanted to have a moment of seeing who Kate was. When you meet her and because I like doing that. I mean, we have that in Bridesmaids too, where you kind of meet a character who's down on their luck, but at some point you go, oh, this is who they were. I want them to get back to being that person. So it gives you a rooting interest in a character who can sometimes be a little more challenging or a little more, ill-behaved. And so we added that scene, and it was just like, oh, she should be, you should think it's a hymn, but it actually should be a George Michael song. And I just fell so head over heels in love with the song Heal the Pain that, to me, that honestly, the movie's called Last Christmas. It should really be called Heal the Pain, because that's, obviously I use the song over and over in the film in different ways and they're singing it, but it just, the lyrics, the music, everything about it is perfect. So that was a big kind of moment of like, oh, we have to do more of this. And then I scripted in a lot of songs, like using Praying for Time and the ice skating and other ones, so they were hardwired in there, Freedom and all that. But then as we were, finishing up the movie, it was just like, you know what, this, instead of putting score here, this George Michael song is perfect for this. And this George Michael song says this message better without being too alliterative, but, it just felt right. And so it just kept growing and growing and growing to where now there's, I mean, I forget how many songs there are. It's a lot, but it's great because it's nice to give that tribute to George, who was such an enormous talent. And I mean, I've had the luck of getting to dive so deep into his life and his work through the movie that, it's so sad that he's gone, but so nice that we could, at least in our own way, kind of pay this little tribute to him.
Yeah, and it's so cool that he was able to, see the script and like be able to be a little part of it when it was still kind of being put together.
Yeah, well, because the whole homeless element, he wanted that in there. When he had talked to Emma, because he did a lot of work with homeless charities, and
Yeah.
he had said like, oh, it'd be great if, that could be something in the story. And so she had, invented the way to put that in. So it really does feel like he's in there.
Wow, that's amazing. Is Emma Thompson a really big George Michael's fan? Is that kind of where it
Yeah, I mean, she knew him. She was friends with him, but the origin was really that one of our other producer, David, had called her up years and years ago, and just had pitched the idea of taking the song "Last Christmas" and turning it into a movie. But just she also happened to know George, so it all kind of was this kind of thing that just came together karmically.
together perfectly? Do you have a favorite George Michael or Wham song?
Well, I mean, "Heal the Pain" is definitely my favorite George song. But then Wham, I think it's "Everything She Wants" is definitely my favorite Wham song, because it's just so. That is a song you put on and nobody doesn't like it. Everybody goes like, "Oh my God, I love this song!" Even if you forgot about it, especially if you forgot about it, you're like, "Oh, I forgot about this song. It's so awesome."
I love it. I love it. Well, since this is kind of kicking off our like holiday season movie watching binge, I want to kind of end this on a very fun question note. What are your top 3 Christmas movies that you love to watch every year? Your go-tos?
Yeah, well, I mean, number one, my favorite movie of all time is "It's a Wonderful Life." I really kind of based my whole career making any kind of movie that is anything like that, and that's what I liked about this movie. I had elements of that in it to me.
Oh,
Um, so definitely love that. I love Bad Santa just because it's so
yeah.
funny and wrong in a great way, and then Elf is just it's so damn entertaining, that movie. That's a movie I look at and go like, I wish I had made that movie.
Elf is one that we watch every year too. My mom and I absolutely love it. And like Christmas in Connecticut, I mean, there's so many great ones that this is just a great time of year to watch
Yeah.
movies.
Oh no, totally. And Christmas movies are fun. It's funny now that I've made 2 Christmas movies, believe it or not.
Mhm.
You always kind of go like, oh my God, am I gonna just like want to hate Christmas by the end of this process? But you don't. You weirdly, because you spend a year, when everybody else is having vacation in summer and out in the hot, you're in an editing room doing Christmas music and looking at Christmas imagery, and but it's kind of fantastic. And I wrote Emma put out a book of essays about Christmas, and I wrote one for it that was just about like, Christmas could, if that spirit should be in you every day of the year, because it's such a wonderful thing. And why does it have to be one time a year when we all kind of have that connection with everybody? So yeah, so it's fun. It was really fun doing it. And I love, look, hey, if another great Christmas idea comes along, sure, why not go for the three-peat,
I was just gonna ask, would you do a third?
It would take a lot. It would take a lot. But again, a great Christmas movie. The
Yeah.
good thing about Christmas movies is, in general, they at least get watched once a year. Although my first one, Unaccompanied Minors, I don't think really gets watched that much, but oh well.
But you got Last Christmas, right?
You know what? Done.
Perfect. Well, what is this drink that you have to share with us?
Yes, I invented a cocktail called the Last Christmas. Actually, it's called Last Christmas. I don't want to call it the Last Christmas because that sounds like then you're not around next year. So
Final
that exactly. But it's a gin-based drink because I have my own gin called Artingstall's Gin that I invented and created, and it's coming out all over the place now. But that's not why I'm showing this drink. It's delicious. Exactly. So here's what it is. Basically, it is first of all, you take ice and put it into it. Oh God, you don't drop the ice on the ground. Put it into a shaker like this. And then you use 1 ounce of gin. And if you want, you can use vodka, but boo. But if you use gin, either use like Artingstall's, which is mine, or just a gin that's a lighter gin. Like a heavy juniper gin will be a little weird. But come on, we're making a cocktail, right? Then you take 1 ounce of creme de cacao, which is a delicious chocolatey liqueur, and you put in 1 ounce of that. And then the last ingredient, it's an easy drink. There's only three ingredients in it, is creme de menthe. Creme de menthe. Now, this is green creme de menthe.
Okay.
I like to make it with a white, like a clear creme de menthe, but I couldn't find any in North Carolina where I'm at now. So this will have, but it looks a little more festive because it is a green drink. So as you'll see in 1 minute, and you just put a 1/2 ounce of this in, because it's very minty, and you don't want to power the chocolate in the creme de cacao. So there you go. That all goes in, and all you do then is you shake it up, shake it all about like the hokey pokey. God, it's leaking. Not my norm. This is not my. Oh my God! These are not my normal things that I use. Spinning all over the place. The thing you need, first of all, we're gonna take it, get a nice chilled martini glass, and you pour it in. Get ready. Oh, look.
Oh my gosh, that is perfect for last Christmas.
See, isn't it? I know, it's nice. It matches Kate's elf costume. And then
for a movie night, I mean, there you go.
Come on, everybody. But here's what you gotta have though. Then you have to put in candy cane.
I love that.
There you go. It's a last Christmas.
Perfect. Well, that way I wish I had a drink to cheers with you, but I just have my water. So
I'm sorry. I know. I will.
Cheers.
But definitely make one if you get a chance.
I will. When will your gin be available? Is that coming soon?
It's out now. It's just now it's getting deeper into the country. But if you go to artingstallsgin.com, ARTINGSTALLSGIN.com, it'll tell you where you can get it. You can mail order it from places. It'll tell you the stores it's at. And it's really good.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for talking with us tonight, Paul. This is just the best.
My pleasure. And everybody, I hope you enjoyed it. Watch it again. Pour yourself a drink and cheers. And very, very Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. And I love you all for watching the movie and for enjoying the movie and for liking it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, cheers with my imaginary glass to you.
Here. Cheers, Hannah. I really appreciate it.